On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks get a win against the OKC Thunder. Bunch of guys out. Bunch of random things happened. Bunch of guys stepped up in a huge way. We'll tell you who stepped up the most on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't even
Let it ride. Welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks today. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member of NBA Channel Manager, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being every day or making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Subscribe to our newsletter. Check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. Today's episode is sponsored by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, on the postgame prodigy from the Great Slightly Biased YouTube channel. What you got for me, Slightly Biased?
Man, I don't remember if we said it on the show or not, but I was like, man, these games during this stretch when you just desperately need to just claw your way to win anyway, anyhow. They feel like playoff games. They do. Like, at the end, you're like, okay, got that one. We can move on to the next.
In this stretch without Luka and the ones where they also didn't have Kyrie, it has felt like every game that the Mavs win is the best thing in the world, and every game the Mavs lose is the worst thing in the world. And somehow this game against the OKC Thunder embodied all of that. So today we'll get into how the Mavs went up big early, had a great second quarter, incredible second quarter, and then maybe the worst quarter of the whole season in the third quarter to lose that lead, and then some massive clutch moments. And I actually want to start there with some of the big clutch moments because the Mavs were only up by one with like 4 minutes left in this game. And you had some massive contributors in Spencer Dinwiddie and Naji Marshall. And we've talked about moments like this. 4:35, Mavs only up by one. Naji and Spencer Dinwiddie scored the next 12 points for Dallas. It wasn't Kyrie. It wasn't the god of Thunder, PJ Washington. It wasn't going down to a big man because they didn't, the Thunder didn't have their two starting centers. It was because of role guys that this team has brought in, made part of their system, and has empowered, and the Mavericks were able to take advantage of some mismatches, some opportunities, and things like that. And I thought Naji and Dinwiddie, just those huge buckets at the end, were so massive.
Huge threes. I mean, that was a great game from Naji, and that was really well needed, much needed because, it hadn't been the same Naji that we had seen earlier in the season since he came back from the illness and since he came back from the suspension and stuff like that. I thought he was great tonight. I think that might have been his best defensive performance as well.
Yes.
In that game. Like, that was some of the best defense he's played as a Maverick so far. But yeah, Naji got an and one. I mean, a couple of and ones down the stretch of this game. A couple corner threes as well late in the game for Naji Marshall. I mean, those are the shots right there. Like the Naji Marshall corner threes, those are the ones where it's like, in a playoff, guess what? A team, if they're looking at all the players on the court, and we're just going to assume that they're healthy, they're looking at all the different weapons on the court for the Mavs. They're like, Naji Marshall, catch and shoot three. Okay, like we'll live with that if that's the shot that they get. Those are going to be huge shots. So I thought he was tremendous tonight. And yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie, that dagger three, I mean, huge. Like, and this is with Kyrie back. Sharing the floor with Kyrie is a more suitable role for Spencer Dinwiddie, obviously, but that goes without being said.
It's better to have better players playing next to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, this was like the thing that we were talking about is when you lose guys, other guys get slotted up into positions that are probably out of their pay range for one, but also just like out of what they're really capable of doing.
You're trying to evaluate players that are doing a role that you're not normally asking them to do. Spencer Dinwiddie, they're not asking him to play 30 minutes a game, shoot 18 times and all that, but he's having to do that in these stretches, which we understand. But that's not what the Mavs brought him in to do. He brought him in to do what he did tonight. 5 of 13, which is not great, but 4 of 9 from 3, hit 2 of his 3 free throws, 4 assists, 16 points, and like I mentioned, he had some huge, massive buckets at the end. And those plays were set up, I think, by Kyrie Irving being back. Like, he was so great in this game in so many different ways and levels. 25 points, 25 of the Mavs 106, which is we see these absorbent scores like 140, 150, whatever. 25 points of 106 is significant. I mean, that reminds me of Dirk scoring. When people be like, oh, Dirk only had 24 tonight. Okay, well, they were massive because it was like a fourth of the Mavs' points. 25 points, 5 assists, 9 of 19 from the field. Really bounced back after that game where he just really struggled coming back and struggled shooting. And I thought we saw something from Kyrie that I've not seen very often from Kyrie in Dallas, and that was emotion. There was emotion with Kyrie where he was into it. He felt the rivalry of this. He was going back and forth. There was a moment where the PJ Washington had the hard foul on Jalen Williams that ended up being a flagrant, and Dwight. That's the one where Dwight limped off the court with a non-contact injury, which we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jaden Hardy's injury. This team just keeps getting hurt. But right after that, Kyrie gets pushed, I think, by Isaiah Joe, and him and Alex Caruso start going back and forth at each other, and Kyrie was just like kept talking, kept going in on the Thunder players, and you just don't see that from Kyrie very often, which to me just signaled I'm back in this. I have emotion in this, and I'm gonna lead this team. And Naji Marshall talked about it after the game about how Kyrie has led this team despite his injury. He's dealing with this back injury. If you guys have heard some of the things they've said about this back injury, it's really tough, and for him to work through it. And then to be fully engaged in this game and leading this team because he is the leader of this team was massive today.
Yeah, I mean that was an interesting sequence when he was getting into it with Caruso because I don't know. I mean, there must have been something there that we didn't really catch on TV because that was a hard foul by PJ, flagrant one. Sure,
he earned that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And any teammate's gonna come pick up their guy, probably shove the guy who committed it. Like that's happened a trillion times. So
I will say watching the replay, Caruso, Jalen Williams falls down, hits his head on the floor, and Caruso is calling for the replay before he even goes and checks to see if Jalen Williams is okay. Not really a great teammate move, but we move on.
That's hilarious. But yeah, I mean that was funny. I agree with you. I thought Kyrie was really, really good tonight, and this is what we talked about it a bunch. This is a tough matchup for him. They got a bunch of even without Shea out, all their guys out. They have a bunch of great perimeter defenders with size. They send double teams at him. Like it's a difficult matchup, especially without Luka. So him getting 25 points was huge. I had a couple great assists in the fourth quarter as well. Just, I mean, I'd have to look. I had the number up. We talk about just how rough the stretch has been and how bad they have been without Luka and Kyrie, or without Luka mainly. But you look at the stuff, and it's still when Kyrie's out there, they're still a competitive basketball team. I believe they're 8-4 now in games where
they were really good to start the season.
Or with Kyrie plays with no Luka, 8-4, 2-7 without both. So him just being back and on the floor. You just need one of those guys, man. It just changes everything, changes the dynamic of everything that's going on. And that should go without being said, but it has to be said.
As soon as you started talking about Kyrie, there's a Kyrie clap, Kyrie clap chant happening.
Oh, he
right behind me. I don't know if he's coming out or not. Maybe we'll get him on the show.
Maybe he's got a son with him.
He was he was absolutely massive in this game. And we mentioned the injuries. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was kind of a late scratch for the Thunder. He's got a wrist injury. He was questionable. Then he ended up being out. Chet Holmgren's still out. They're going to evaluate him in 3 to 5 weeks. That's kind of tough. That seems like he's been out for a long time. Isaiah Hartenstein, he's out for them as well. Mavericks, we're missing Luka and Lively, so I don't know if that's equal, but it's pretty close.
I don't want to hear it.
Across the board. But I bring them up to say that's the context of the game. And also, the matchup in the playoffs that we really looked at was Kyrie versus Jalen Williams. They both kind of canceled each other out in that they both didn't impact the game, at least scoring-wise, very much. And so you look at this game and you go, all right, well, it's kind of that amplified. It's Kyrie versus Jalen Williams. And Kyrie finished 25-5. Jalen Williams finished with 19-6 and shot 7 of 22 from the field, which is 32%. It was a tough one for him. He made some really tough buckets, but just was chucking him up a little bit there because they needed offense. Thunder needed offense in any way, but I think Kyrie outplayed him.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's so weird, J-Dub. I don't feel like that. The final stat line and stuff.
I thought he was better than that. I would have thought he shot way better.
For sure. That's what I was about to say. Because fourth quarter, late in the game, I mean, he was hitting some tough shots. And in a game where, like you said earlier, the scoring was low. 98 points for the Thunder, 106 for the Mavs. Yeah. Like, all of those buckets feel really, really big. So, I mean, he did have a horrible first half, though. When it looked like the Mavs might potentially win this game by 40, but then they said, no.
Yeah. No. Jalen Williams, 1 of 6 in the first half.
5 turnovers. That was really it. He had some turnovers. They were like, what was that?
Turnovers, and there's many other factors that led to the Mavericks to win this game. But we've got to talk about that second and third quarter. How did the Mavericks go down, or how did the Mavericks go up by 20, and how did the Mavericks lose that lead in an instant? We'll talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment of receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of a high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national savings average interest rate claim is based on the data by the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, what we call our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. We're a daily show that covers the Dallas Mavericks. We also do every single post game. Me and Slightly's doing great stuff on his YouTube channel all the time. Go check out that as well. And we've got the Locked On Mavs Insiders. You can get texts from us, and I'm going to work on responding to every single person. If I don't respond to you, send the message again. It won't annoy me. I just will respond to it eventually. So subscribe to that. You can text Isaac and I a bunch of things, and it helps support the show as well. We're the number 2 Insiders program in all of Locked On, and we're getting beat by the Bills. The Bills! I can't believe we're getting beat by the Bills.
Don't worry, Lamar will take care of that.
Drives me nuts. Isaac needs 2 things to happen on this weekend. He needs his Ravens to beat the Bills, and we need to beat Locked On Bills in Insider subscriptions.
Ravens guy.
Isaac's a huge Ravens guy. Yeah,
Me too. That's who I'm going for this year.
Wow.
Lamar.
Tonight we were going for the Mavericks. I wanted the
Not
Mavericks.
me. I was rooting for the Thunder.
I would say you're slightly biased, but now I think you're slightly biased in a different way. An insane run both ways. The Mavs went on a huge run. It ended up being a 22-4 run to end that second quarter. Let's start with the positive. What did you see in that 22-4 run from the Dallas Mavericks now when it was tied 37-37 at 6:52, and the Mavs went on a huge run and ended up being up by 20 at halftime?
Great defensive intensity. I mean, they forced so many turnovers in that second quarter. And they got out and ran. It felt like they converted on every single turnover. Like they got finishes on the other end. They hit transition, pull-up threes, whatever the case may be. And, 41 points. I mean, regardless of who's out for this Thunder team, that's super impressive, man. This is a very good defensive team. Again, they're missing a lot of guys, obviously, but they're still a great defensive team. You saw that literally the rest of the game, how that played out for the Mavs. So I love the intensity. I love Naji got 2 backcourt steals. In the second quarter of this game. I mean, I loved how fast they were playing. I love the energy that I think has been there for the Mavs during this stretch. I do. They forced 8 turnovers in that quarter. 8. That's a huge number. This is a Thunder team that never turns the ball over there without their lead guard. So that makes sense. So they're going to turn the ball over more. You see the similar things happening to this Mavs team currently. But no, go on. I was just going to say that the energy was so needed.
The turnovers and steals were massive. In that first half, the Thunder had 13 turnovers, only 5 steals. The Thunder averaged 12 turnovers a game, and the Mavs got 13 in that first half. That forced them into 13 in that first half. That was huge. The run, though, I was setting you up. It started when P.J. Washington stood on business again. It stood over Lou Dort.
Is that really when it started?
It was tied 37-37 at 6:52. At 7 minutes was when PJ stood over Lou Dort, tried to bait him into a second technical. Lou Dort already had a technical. He also got called for flopping, which insane, which is just wild.
Hilarious.
Insane that he got called for that too, of all the things that Lou Dort does. PJ stood over him to try and bait him into that technical foul, and it ended up being a technical on PJ and Andrew Wiggins and the other one, Aaron Wiggins. And the Mavs then went on a run after that.
Yeah.
Let's play the game. Something or nothing, slightly.
Oh, definitely something. This team feeds off energy. They do. We see it when they, even in games with the fake comebacks. I mean, that's feeding. we joke around all the time, but that's feeding off the energy. That's the bench is standing up. The crowd's getting into it. That's why they're they're as successful as they are in the playoffs. I think they love rising to the occasion. They love moments like these, and that was a great moment again. I mean, this is a real rivalry. These teams do not like one another.
No,
there's real like bad blood there, and I was wondering, we were asking in the chat, like, is this the biggest rivalry in the NBA currently?
Ooh, it's tough.
It's tough because some of the rivalries have lost their steam a little bit.
It's got to be like the nastiest rivalry right now because you start thinking about. I mean, is Timberwolves Nuggets like that's not really. There's
no. I mean, you got to think like Celtics Sixers, Sixers Knicks
Hawks weirdly
hurt. It just sucks so much of the life out of some of these rivalries.
Yeah, they were they were the villain for a while. Yeah, I mean, even like think about. Somebody asked me about rivalries. Somebody that covers college for Locked On College was asking me about rivalries in the NBA. And I said, there's not really, like, even Lakers-Celtics just doesn't feel like Lakers-Celtics anymore.
Yeah.
There's like a little rivalry there. You feel the history of those two teams when they play. But it's not a rivalry like you would be used to. You get rivalries now in the NBA by playing somebody in the playoffs and having a really hard-fought playoff series and then playing them again in the regular season a couple times. And there's
like real bad, like Bucks Pacers is one.
Well, they played a bunch of times. They played 5 times last year.
Yeah, and they have like some serious, like there was an event that happened that was just like from then on out, like, okay, we're going at each other. Yeah. But I think if they play each other in the playoffs again, this Thunder Mavs, these two teams, I think that will cement it. I just think there's so much bad blood, and it's ready to really reach a boiling point here if they meet again in the postseason.
How many punches does Naji throw in a playoff series?
I think there's a very solid chance Naji gets ejected from a game against the Thunder. Very solid chance.
Lou Dort and PJ Washington were like trying to get ejected from this game.
Yeah, Lou Dort really. I mean, that flopping technical was hilarious because
wild, totally caught me off guard.
It was a flop for sure, but it's just like that's what you're calling. I think I wonder if somebody called the league office.
Cuban, are you out there? Cuban, if you're listening, did you call the league office to try? Hey, we can't protest this last game that was stolen from us, but we can.
Or the Cavs last night, they called the league. They're like, hey, can you guys do something about these?
One last thing about the PJ Washington standing over Lou Dort moment. Right after that moment, so the teams are going back and forth at each other. There's a little pushing, shoving. It's like one of the third times they had gotten in a little tussle and a shoving, yelling match after a play. And Shippy in the arena plays John Lennon's Imagine, which I just thought was amazing.
There's another layer to this rivalry that was extended. Did you see that tweet?
No.
Our guy Noah, shout out to the Mavs Twitter tournament, the Unblockables. Noah was one of our was our 6th man of the year.
Noah Weber.
But yeah, Noah Weber. He was our 6th man of the year. The arena speakers briefly played "The Last Time I Checked" by Nipsey Hussle in the final moments of the game.
Yes.
Dallas played the song in the locker room in November when they beat OKC, and then the Thunder played it whenever they beat the Mavericks in December during the NBA Cup.
Rivalry. That's it. Yeah, that's what it's all about. You get to play the song if you win. That's it. It's like planting the flag in college football. The players just couldn't handle it. But this is like, all right, you win the game, you get to play the song. That's it.
Yep, that is it. And I love it too because it feels just like competitive. Sometimes there's rivalries that are like very petty and there for weird reasons. Like this is just two very competitive basketball teams who play chippy, play physical, play hard, feed off energy. And I think it's awesome. I think it's great for the sport.
Amazing. What's not great for the sport is blowing 20-point leads. Let's talk about that. Yeah. The Mavs blew their 20-point lead in the third quarter. A 12-0 run before Jason Kidd calls a timeout. I know you're not a Jason Kidd timeout truther, slightly. Neither am I. At what point during that run were you like, all right, okay, I think I have to admit that he probably should have called a timeout at some point during this run. Literally 4 threes in a row for the Thunder unanswered.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
going to admit it. If you're not going to do it now, you'll never do it.
It's not something that I care about much. It's something I've never cared about, to be fair. This isn't like a super big defensive kid or anything like that.
Yeah, it was tough to watch though. And the Maverick, it was their offense. The Mavericks offense just could not score.
Could not make a bucket. They got good looks.
I wrote at one point, like at 5:31, that's 6.5 minutes into the game or into the quarter, they had taken 9 shots.
Yeah.
Like, at total. They missed all of them, but they'd only taken 9. I think the Thunder had taken 15 or something like that. And they had the Mavs had 2 offensive rebounds then too. Like, what are you doing? Like, how are you not getting shots? They just weren't creating offense at all. And the Mavs can get into this where they get bogged down and they don't move the ball enough, and then that's when Luka or Kyrie comes in and just isos and tries to create and do stuff. And I don't know if Kyrie's back allows him to do that in every moment that they need him in a game like this. But
yeah, I agree.
Then you get the moment where PJ's the hard foul and Jalen Williams talked about that. Dwight Powell limps off the court. Jaden Hardy limped off the court earlier too. But the Mavs ended up they snuck away from that quarter with a 1-point lead. The Thunder shot 7 of 10 from 3 in the third quarter, and I think that was just, I mean, they got their offense when they needed it, the Thunder did, and got really good shots and made them, and the Mavericks offense could not do anything. And credit the Thunder defense, but the Mavs really got bogged down. And yeah, I mean, just a really hot shooting quarter from the Thunder. Some of it was, Lou Dort's been a great 3-point shooter this year. There was a couple plays where it was like, can we get out and get like a hand up on him or something? I mean, the whole defensive strategy game plan last year against Lou Dort in the playoffs was close out as hard as possible on him. If he puts the ball on the floor, cool. If he shoots a 1-dribble pull up after you fly by, great. That we like that shot. We like him shooting that shot. So you have to contest those. But some of them was like, Jay Will hasn't been a great 3-point shooter this year. I guess it's just the philosophy is how much are you going to rely on your game plan? If your game plan is, hey, we're cool, this guy's shooting, this guy's shooting, this guy's shooting, this guy's shooting. Is it the first 3, the second 3? When is it where you're like, hey, maybe we go out and contest that guy now? Yeah, there was a play late in this game where Dort hit a 3, and PJ didn't even contest. Now he had 5 fouls. He had 5 fouls at that point, and so maybe that's why. But yeah, it's just not even a contest. And you're like, okay, can we get something going here? Coming up, let's get into the who stood out to us in this game. Let's talk about the game from PJ Washington. Let's talk about what we saw from others in this game. Lots of contributors in this one. Maxi Kleba contributed in ways. We'll talk about him. We'll talk about other things in this game. Get into that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by Skims. Go to Skims. I'm wearing them right now, and I love them. They hold their shape. They keep everything where it needs to be. They stay loose. But they also stay where they're supposed to be. You gotta love that about Skims. They make underwear for men, and as soon as I heard that they made underwear for men, I was intrigued. And I've always had issues with comfort, fit, or the band kind of digging in or whatever like that. Boxer briefs. They have classic boxer briefs. All kinds of great stuff. I tried Skims, and I tried their boxer briefs, and I love them. I'm going to go out and definitely get more. Isaac has talked about how much he likes the ones that Skims sent us as well. And whether I'm doing errands or I'm even working out or I'm just hanging out at home, you can wear Skims anywhere. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in their survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows Locked On Mavericks. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Skims, S-K-I-M-S, skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Also brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. And right now, they're giving you a deal for $300 in bonus bets. Put down $5. If you win that first bet, that's $300 in bonus bets. There's a lot of people that are like, I don't really like to put money down on sports or do things like that. Well, if you do just $5 and you get the $300 in bonus bets, it's not your money. So I don't know. Have fun with that. See what you got. There's all kinds of different things for the NFL this weekend. You can go bet on Isaac's Ravens. They are hoping to, reverse whatever they've been doing in the playoffs the last couple of years here. The Ravens are still a 1.5-point underdog or a favorite against the Bills going into Buffalo. So if you're interested in that, there's all kinds of NBA stuff as well. They also have college basketball and everything that you would need at FanDuel.com. Again, put down $5 and you get $300 in bonus bets. First bet wins. Go check out FanDuel.com, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, Slightly, let's talk about who stood out in this game. We've given credit to Kyrie for his moments. We've given credit to Spencer Dinwiddie and Naji Marshall. But Naji, 14 points, not 10 boards, 3 steals, a couple of turnovers there. But if they're going to give him open shots and he's going to hit threes like that, if he's going to create off the dribble and do a little bit here and there, that's exactly what they've brought him in to do. And it was just nice to see Naji have a good game after a little bit of a struggle there from him.
Yeah, the thing with Naji's 3-point shooting has to be there, and then the disruptive playmaking defensively. Those are the two things where I'm like, you give me that, cool. You're getting 20-plus minutes in the playoffs, guaranteed.
And he had a massive rebound at 3 minutes I think the Mavericks were only up by 4 right then, and Dort tried a wild fadeaway. Naji just got a massive rebound right there, and just some huge big plays down the stretch. And it's nice to have a PJ and a Naji that are both going to make big plays in a bunch of different ways like that. Rebounds, steals, they can handle a little bit. They're going to be open for threes. They can hit threes. And it was nice to see both of them together. You know what it did? You know what it did to me? It warmed my heart because it just felt like the Dirty Work Wings were back. The Dirty Work Wings are back.
Yeah, I mean, we really need, and then you felt it on the glass too. We talked about Naji's rebounding, but the Mavs need a team effort rebounding wise, and I didn't think their effort on the boards tonight was good. I don't think it's excusable to lose the rebounding battle to this Thunder team the way in which they were losing it in this game, and they got much better in the second half. They gave up. I'm looking at the numbers right now. They gave up
14 offensive rebounds.
9 offensive rebounds in the first half and 5 in the second half. So the rebounding effort was much better down. And it's just team rebounding. It's just everybody crashing the glass, everybody putting a body on somebody because the Thunder will crash the glass. They got athletes.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just mental.
It almost felt like that's all they had left was athletes today. It's just like, all right, all we can do is put in more athletes. Here's Kaysen Wallace, who's super quick. Here's Lou Dort, who's huge. Here's Aaron Wiggins. He's Isaiah Joe running around. Kendrick Williams, Jalen Williams, great athletes. Oh,
yeah.
And
they just spawn in a white dude. Ben Carlson comes in. Brandon Carlson, sorry.
They got
Carlson comes in and hit the 3.
What did you call him at first?
Ben Carlson.
Ben Carlson.
Brandon Carlson comes in and hits the 3. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
They got him at LA Fitness. They got him at LA Fitness downtown.
No, he played really well last night too.
He was just balling up there. Yeah, man, massive moments. They had to play Maxi Kleba 20 minutes. Gafford only played 20 minutes, and I thought Maxi had some good moments. Offensively, he was struggling. He was passing up a bunch of threes. He took 4, missed all of them. But he had 4 assists, 7 points, and there was a moment where nobody was scoring in the third quarter. Maxi had their only buckets. It's like, okay, he still comes up big sometimes when the Mavs need him.
And he had that huge and one down the stretch of that game that really kind of felt like it pulled the game away for the Mavs. But, yeah, I mean, interesting with the center dilemma here tonight because they were going to play Powell some decent minutes, I think. And then he gets injured. And the way that looked, I'd have to imagine he's out a good amount of time.
They called it a hip injury, though, which is not as scary as, like, I thought is non-contact. He was trying to close out and stop real quick. I was like, oh, Achilles,
I thought it was a groin injury.
Yeah, a lot of people said groin, but if it's a hip, I mean, that's not as scary as some of those other ones.
Yeah. But then Gafford gets his fifth foul, or his fourth foul? Fifth foul?
He finished with 5.
His fourth foul. About 1-2 minutes into the third quarter, 2 straight offensive fouls that really hurt, and then he's got to sit the rest of the third quarter. And I think that was kind of a big reason why the Thunder went on the run that they did, because the Mavs go without their size, and then the Mavs have to play into their hands at that point. Then you're putting out a small ball lineup against their small ball lineup, and you're taking out probably your biggest strength against this team, which is we do have a guy like Daniel Gafford who can get rebounds, and we get the ball too, and he can get a couple of buckets here and there, but I thought both of them played well, honestly. I thought Gafford, despite the foul trouble, played really well in this game. Just was a force. Had 8 free throws, went 4 of 8 at the free throw line, but they fouled him a bunch. He got 6 rebounds, 2 blocks. He did everything that you wanted him to do. And Maxi, everyone was talking about Maxi's plus minus. That stat just has so much context involved in it. It just does. Yeah. But damn it, he made plays down the stretch.
I know. That's what I was trying. I was like half giving him credit, half like, oh, there's some stuff, but honestly, he made plays.
And he had some great defensive stands on J-Dub. Mm-hmm. He did. And he had 3 assists in the fourth quarter, including that lob when the Mavs broke the press there at the end. That lob to PJ.
Oh, that lob to PJ was awesome.
Yeah, that was
massive moment.
Jaden Hardy play feels like 5 points.
The what?
A Maxi play feels like it's 5 points. Just
his threes do feel like 6.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God, they're winning this game.
Jaden Hardy goes down with an injury too. Only plays a minute, and he gets caught up with Isaiah Joe and around a screen. They both fall down. They both stay on the ground. And I thought maybe he hit his head, but man, he came up limping, and they called it a right ankle injury. And that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, both the Mavs injuries tonight. I kind of joked on Twitter. I was like, well, they only suffered 2 injuries tonight, but
only 2.
But both of them looked not good. I mean, you never know during the game and stuff like that. Some of these are deceiving, but didn't look promising for either of them. Those might be extended absences.
Yeah, and I know Dwight's the third string center, and Jaden Hardy is the third, fourth string point guard or guard on this team. But the Mavs are down guys right now, and they're still down Exum, and Luka's going to be still out for a while. And I mean, any guys you lose is tough right now, and is asking more and more of guys that are already playing a lot.
Yeah, that, and I mean, it's not like Kyrie's going to play every single game from here on out, even without Luka. So you're going to get Jazz Gortman minutes. You're going to get Brandon Williams minutes because Hardy was at least a guy who you felt comfortable enough to be out on the court.
He had a good run the last couple of weeks. I mean, he had a couple of bad games, but he had some really good ones too in that. And you're going to have to replace that shooting and scoring somehow. The other thing is I saw Dereck Lively before the game. He was walking around, didn't have a boot, didn't have a wrap, nothing. He was at the game. He was there. I was a little encouraged by that.
Yeah, it feels like they're very cautious with him. That's just what it feels like. All of his injuries.
Feels like with everybody, but yeah, him especially, and they have to be. I mean, he just missed so much random time.
Yeah, second-year player, man. Sometimes you just got to remember that.
Yeah, and it can take. I want to say this too. It can take some guys a little bit to get into their NBA body. He came in at 19 years old. You've got to strengthen your ankles. You've got to strengthen a lot of things. Remember Steph Curry. Bad example because he's my height, but Steph Curry had all those crazy ankle injuries and then strengthened his hips, strengthened his ankles. There's a big study on what he did, and he hasn't had any issues since, or not really any issues, right? Happens to some guys.
He's going to keep growing into his body, and he'll be fine. But it does feel like the reporting around his injuries is always like, yeah, they're very hopeful that he'll be back soon. It always just feels like if there were a playoff game tomorrow, does Lively play? Probably,
maybe. Now since I have you on here, did you see Isaiah Stewart yelling at Miles Turner about playing Legos and how he was?
Yep. Take him out of your mock trades.
Do you think the Mavs do you think they can trade for Isaiah Stewart now? With Lively loves Legos.
I never thought. If you were going to send me a mock trade, please do not have the Pistons in it. They're not who you think they are. They're not your uncle's Pistons.
I saw our friend Lauren Gunn talk about the one player I want on the Mavericks is Marcus Sasser, and I was like, you know what? That's the first time I've ever heard that.
A new name, that's just cool. Someone different.
Got to give you credit on that one, but yeah, I have a conspiracy theory.
Oh,
Lively's injuries are so bad because he sits on the floor doing Legos for so long. Have you ever put together one of those Lego sets? Like he put together the Eiffel Tower. It takes like multiple days to put that together, and that's bad on your joints.
Don't let Lego see this. You're going to lose a sponsor.
No, we need to get him a table.
Okay.
Get him a Lego table that he can sit and he doesn't have to.
You think wait, does he sit on the floor? Is that confirmed?
No, I don't know. I'm messing around. Remember, this is the part of the show that's not on TV, so we can say whatever we want.
We can get into big conspiracies.
That's right.
Who do you think started the fires, Nick? We're really going for it.
We did. No, I can't. We can't do that.
You know what's crazy is they're 3-3 in the last 6 games.
3-3.
Yeah, this is what's
that's why I felt every game has been either the worst thing in the world or the best thing in the world. Today feels like the best thing. The Pelicans game felt like the worst. The Nuggets games felt like the worst. The Lakers game felt like the best. It's like we're just going back and forth.
And it's probably going to end up being like it's not like it's going to be win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. It's going to be like 2 straight wins, 3 straight losses, 3 straight wins.
You and I are going to do this for the rest of the season, however long, and then you listening are going to do it with us because we have every single post game. We'll have all the shows as well throughout the week. Guys, check the QR code for different ways to follow the show. We have the Locked On Mavs Insider. Subscribe to that so we can beat Locked On Bills. They can't have more followers and subscribers than us. I just can't deal with that. Bills, Locked On Bills. Come on.
Go Ravens.
All the credit to Joe Marino. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs, checking out the show. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking it out. Subscribe wherever you're listening or where you get your podcast. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom.
We love a rivalry.
R.I.P. Suns.